Okay, I'm gonna start recording there now. I assume Nos will join eventually. We're just gonna go for it. So, I've decided rather than try and do like a big massive thing, it's better off if we just kind of break it down. So I think October 4th. Is it? Oh no, shit! Wait, I got my fucking shit mixed up. I have another month after that, don't I? It's Tuesday, October 4th. Okay, so that means we have another couple of weeks more than I thought. Um, I'll expand on this. That's fine. But this is going to be the first 5 weeks, or at least this is what the plan is for the first 5 weeks. We'll see how it goes. Uh, Communication and ethos is going to be the first one. I'm not going to boot up Overwatch today. There's not going to be any massive VOD reviewing. It's mainly going to be just a conversation. I'm working out some things going forward with the team. Week 2, then we're going to start getting into some more Overwatch concepts. Okay, so I'm hoping we'll talk about something along these lines, depending on how the scrims go for the next week. So it's going to be grouping and touching on communication again, expanding then on kind of the physical elements of the server in a sense. We'll be doing spacing and map control, and then after that, then it's going to be more focused on sort of individual stuff leading up to Overwatch 2, things that are going to be really helpful as you're transitioning into what is essentially a new game. So things like resource ideology, understanding your cooldown managements to an even better degree. Sorry if there's a bit of barking, that's my neighbors. I honestly can't do anything about it. And then understanding hero swaps then is going to be the last one. That was sort of my plan for 5 weeks. We'll see how it goes. I have a kind of a blank thing here, coach reflection. I'm going to send you guys this. You guys are going to have access to this drive. Moonrise has all this shit in it. So you're going to have access to this. You will be able to see everything. Coach reflection, this is what my thoughts on the lesson. I'm going to write this up pretty much as soon as you guys start scrimming. It'll be there for you guys. This is something that we'll probably be doing a little bit of going back and forth. But transparency is kind of a big thing. So that's why you guys are going to be able to see my reflections. So this is, I have it down as lesson 1. A session is probably a more apt discussion. I'm not planning on really teaching you guys anything more, so we're just going to have a little bit of a discussion. So topic, communication, ethos. This is something I would do for all my lessons when I'm actually teaching. There's a bit more shit here, but nothing worth pointing out. I'd never really show this, but again, transparency and all that. I actually want to show you guys what I'm looking for out of these hours. So you can ignore this bit for the start. We're going to just look up objective here, okay? What I'm looking for here is communication. That's going to be the big thing. Communicate in the server, and then discussing with each other outside of the server. That's going to be the kind of key takeaways that we're hoping to work towards. And key skills, again, this is just shit from my own kind of mental notes. But this is the stuff that we're really going to be looking into. So we're going to look to create a communication structure for scrims and matches. So again, this is something I've touched on, going back and forth, just as you guys have been going through scrims and that. We're going to really nail it down today. If you look, this is just my notes for myself. Notes for myself. You're not going to get this right today. This is like stuff that I want to see 5-6 months down the line that you guys are actually doing a lot better with. This is not something that's going to be implemented perfectly today. And you'll see this is kind of a running theme with the stuff we're doing today. That's why I want to get it out of the way now. It feels like you're going to get nothing out of this, but hopefully as we get further on into the other lessons, this sort of stuff that we're doing today will creep it back up again and again. So success criteria. So this is how I measure if I've done my job well. If I don't see these, I've done something wrong. Okay. Next we have create an ethos for the theme. So this is again kind of a wishy-washy thing, but it's important to get it out of the way early, get it sorted so that we're all on the same page moving forward. And the last thing we're going to be doing, this will be a 5 or 10 minute reflection at the end. We're going to be looking at implementing kind of a reflective practice for you guys. Sounds boring as shit. The first couple of weeks are boring as shit. You will, as I said, you might never get this right. This might be a chore for as long as you do it, but the important thing is that you are doing it, and you will see improvement from the first one you write to the last one you write, whenever that may be. Okay, so looking at success criteria, I'm not going to spend too much longer on this because we're a little bit behind. Looking at success criteria here, okay, team members will be able to describe the communication structure of the team when in the server. So what I want you guys to be able to do is say, okay, who's our fight planner? Okay, who's our ult tracker? Okay, who's this? Who's that? Etc. Etc. There's a whole long list, and I've done up a flowchart because I love flowcharts. I think they are phenomenal. I don't know, Nas, if you remember the fight loss flowchart. I'm gonna leak stuff here. Hang on one sec.
Vaguely.
Oh, shit. Yeah. So back when I like first decided I wanted to start coaching, I was doing kind of like stuff for comp as opposed for scrims. This is the flowchart I did up. It was like, you've decided the fight is lost. What do you do? Get all charged, go to spawn, suicide, different kind of things. I found this really helpful for me personally. So I've done one up here. As you can see, it's blank, and we'll do a little bit more on that in a bit. But I just wanted to put that out there, and that's going to go into the coaching channel, and you guys are going to be able to then look at that. I recommend if you have two monitors, just throw it up on the second one today, just to get used to it. Obviously, I can't force you guys to do that shit. Do whatever you want, but I think that would be beneficial, or at least that's how you're going to get the most out of it. So next is creating an ethos. So again, you're going to decide on an ethos that covers an acceptable percentage. I was kind of very vague with this, of your personal priorities. Okay, so what do you guys want to see? The goals, aspirations for working in a team for you personally. We're all going to build on this, and I just kind of have some stuff I literally just pulled off of the internet about ethos there. That shouldn't take too long either, and that's going to go into philosophy channel. Okay. Again, philosophy when you first do it, and sometimes when you last do it, is boring as shit. But the improvements are just kind of second to none. And lastly, reflecting on the scrims then. Okay, so team members demonstrate an understanding of effective communication, and that's kind of the key word here on this, is effective communication. Again, I don't think we'll have too much time on this today, but maybe I'll write something up about effective communication actually for afterwards. Team members show a willingness to work on self-reflection via online journal, check-ins with coach, reflection channel, whatever you want to do. So this is self-reflection. This is going to be a post scrim kind of ritual for you guys to write about. I mean, like, what do I have here? That's like what, 150 words, if even 100 words maybe. That's sort of what we're looking for. Like, there's nothing. Doesn't have to be the next great novel. Just that you're actually actively thinking about it and actively self-reflecting. Self-VOD reviewing, that's something you can do, but again, that's a little bit more work. That's going to take a half an hour of your time, and that's kind of too much for the time being. And there was another channel added, so I've added 3 channels. Well, no, actually, sorry, coaching was there already, but I've added philosophy and reflections. This is where you're going to see a lot of the kind of collective, as I said, collective reflections in here. At the start, it can be really difficult to collectively reflect. One of the biggest issues, well, there's 2 issues. One is that you don't say enough, and the other is that you say too much. So let's say Nos, I'm going to use you as an example here, okay? Nos fucks a scrim, just completely throws 5 maps in the gutter, shit out of luck, be gone. You want to grow as a team. You want to all get better as a team, and so feedback needs to be given to Nos. I might not catch it all. In fact, it's very likely I don't catch any of the fucking shit, but it needs to be said. That's what this reflections channel is for. It's going to be for critiquing each other, making sure that you're all developing and getting better at the game together, and no one is getting left behind and no one is shooting ahead. I have a couple of nice quotes that I kind of was looking at today when I was making this. Um, this one, despite being from Henry Ford, is actually pretty nice. If everyone is moving forward together, success takes care of itself. That's sort of a nice ideology to be thinking of when it comes to your reflections channel, okay? And again, the second issue that you can have, and often happens, is that you're saying too much. You're telling Nos he's shit. You're telling him he's not able to play Lucio. You're telling him he's everything he does is wrong. That's not effective communication. That's not constructive, okay? Again, if everyone is moving forward, success will come naturally, okay? We want to better Nos. We want to make Nos better at the game. We want him to improve and fix on these mistakes. We don't do that by verbally harassing him. We don't do that by hitting him in areas when he's down, things like that. Again, effective communication is something that we'll work on, but this is something I want to implement today. I know you guys have a scrim at 45 minutes time. I want to implement it today. It's probably not going to be too successful, but again, you may never get this right. So it's something we'll be continually working on as it goes on. So that is going to be that. Again, I just say evident throughout the week here because I obviously won't know till after the scrims how this goes. But we will work on this. You'll all have a chance to put something in. And for the self reflections, if you're a little bit new to this kind of practice, send it to me. Just DM your reflection to me. I won't even respond if you don't want me to. It can be helpful just to say it to someone as opposed to writing it down yourself and of course if you want to use the reflections channel for self-reflection, that's absolutely perfectly okay. But everything I said here about the collective reflection, that echoes with the self-reflection as well. Make sure you're not saying too much and don't say too little. You need to find that nice little balance there where you're not too critical but you're not letting yourself off the hook for simple mistakes as well. And again, I have to echo back to this. You may never get this right. Okay. So again, philosophy, boring when you start. These are just a couple of quotes that I really liked. I said the Henry Ford one. So communication is the sister of leadership is a good one. This is going to be kind of the motto that we're looking into when it comes to the flowchart. We'll look at the other two in a little bit later, but for now, just want you thinking about communication and the importance of that. So I'm going to be doing a little bit less talking here in a second, and you guys are going to start stepping up. But on the right hand side here, I have 6 names. Now, Guffle, you're going to be Steve today. You're just going to have to pretend. They're all differently colored. So the idea being here that Harrow is in red. When you see Harrow, or when you see red, Harrow is the talker here. Okay. When you see this kind of lighter red, it's the off tank, and it's somewhat color coded. So the main tank, main DPS or hitscan DPS, and main support are all those darker colors, and then the flex is the flex tank, flex DPS, and flex support are all those kind of lighter colors. I tried to make it as easy as possible to understand. I don't know if I did a good job. Call me out if there's not a better idea that you guys see there. Just let me know and I'll mess it around. But this is sort of a very basic one, and we're going to start from pre-flight planning, and collectively we're going to build it up to a full flow chart for communication in an Overwatch match. Okay, so pre-fight planning. I'll let you guys talk a little bit here now. Who do we think is going to be taking over the role of planning before the fights? Oh, actually, sorry. Before you guys jump in, there is an option to add more stuff here. So I didn't cover it all. I left a couple of blanks and stuff just in case. And I'm not even sold on the ones that I do have. So if you guys have a more nuanced version of pre-fight planning that you want to implement, like if there's like 3 different things you want to add for different people in the pre-fight, we can do that as well. So anyone want to jump in?
I can hop in quickly for a second.
Mhm.
Because Nos is most likely going to be on ult tracking, enemy ult tracking. A pre-fight plan is done based around what we have and what they have. So knowing what they've got, and then going, what are they going to use into the next fight? Then knowing what are we going to use against what they're going to use into this next fight.
Yeah.
It's like
so
we want to go from there.
I have down in the bottom right here, this is sort of like the end position before we loop around. We're looking at things like your ult check, enemy ult plan, and then what do we want to do to counter the ult plan for your team. The assumption I made here, and I probably should have said it, is that this is when this is in the spawn room or at the start of a fight, or start of a round. You kind of have to start somewhere. I understand what you mean about the ult checking enemy plans. That's kind of covered post fight in a sense, because you can't track the ults without having a fight beforehand. So I think a better way of doing this, if I was to just take a little bit of liberty here. Something like this. So we have our game start, who's talking first, and then it kind of loops around. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Ooh, don't know what the fucking shit I've done here. Pre-game. There we go. Okay. I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Everyone understanding that? Is that making sense for people? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, is it visible? Is it like, does it look good?
Yeah, look fine.
Okay, grand. All right. So pre-game then, who's our chatters, and do we need more than one?
I think normally I am supposed to do the pre-fight planning, but sometimes I just forget. Like in terms of like calling what ults we're going to use this fight. If I'm like distracted or thinking about like other stuff throughout the fight that we're going to take, then sometimes I just forget. I feel like it'd definitely be a lot easier if like people suggested, or like or if they like wanted to take the liberty of using their ult that fight, and then they suggest like a plan if I'm not like already doing it, and then I can either agree and then or adjust.
Okay. So kind of like a proposition, in a sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
That's
quite good
good.
at reminding people to
Yeah.
do things.
that was my other.
Doing that, like, I don't mind like just saying like, "Oh, check," like doing that. I don't mind doing that.
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll have this idea of a proposition pop up a couple of times, I think. And for the most part, then, Near, I'm going to put it to you. Get the colors right. So we'll slot these in a couple of spots. But I like also what you've said there, Harrow, about anyone being able to say, okay, well, shit, I have fucking whatever Reaper ult here. I want to look for. I'm in a good spot to look for things like that. That's a
Yeah.
great idea, and then that allows you then to follow up with the pre-fight planning, here, and obviously if you're pre-fight planning, it's safe to assume you're on the pre-game as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Near, just to circle back to that, I actually realized it's probably not proposition as a reminder, I guess. Do we want a word for it? I suppose ult check and plan check, I suppose, and we can rename our ult check to track. So we would have you call the okay, it's getting a little bit.
Would the track from NOS come before the ult check? Like what they have, and then we'll like have the.
Well, I think the ult check is probably not the right term. Basically, Near, am I getting this right in saying that your job here in the post fight will be to say, okay, time to ult check,
Yeah, like clear comms, ult check.
clear
yeah,
comms.
Like,
Okay,
that's like-
perfect. Clear
It's the same with
comms.
like you know, after fights as well. It's like just be like clear comms, you know.
Yeah.
and just
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's a really important thing to add there is that someone is saying clear comms, and then we have our ult tracking, and this one is in like green. Oh yeah, so okay, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves now. We'll come back here. So in the pregame, Harrow, it's up to you then to just talk about what way you want to roll out, what way you want to run the fight, comps,
Yeah.
things like that. That's on you, and that's everyone is happy with that. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
We're getting into the mid fight then. This is where I kind of it's very much Harrow dominated with the colors, but it's open. Like I didn't really know what you guys wanted here. This is just stuff that I thought was kind of important. Having the off tank on target calls again, it doesn't have to be the off tank Harrow. If that's something you're comfortable with, you'll take it. It's worth pointing out that everyone echoes target calls. I didn't include it in this diagram, but it is important that you guys are on the same wavelength. I know if I just go in purple here, we had a system where it was like we'll call it an info feeder. It's in purple. And the idea being that this person, sorry, everyone is the info feeder of a team. Okay, so they're all putting information into Harrow or into whoever it might be. They're all saying, okay, Reaper use shift or Moira use shift or Ana no cooldowns. That's the sort of calls that the team makes, and then it's up to Harrow or Steve or whoever you want on target calls to be saying things like, okay, well now we're going to go on to Ana. New information comes in. Okay, switch to the break. All that sort of stuff. So info feeder is one that kind of everyone is going to be a part of. So that's a good one, I think, to add in there. Does everyone agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Target calls then.
I think I have been doing the target calls. I think it just works a bit easier like that whenever we're playing a dive comp. Like if it's a full dive comp, then as ball, I'm always going to be the first person to initiate. So
Yeah.
I feel like having me being the person that can call the target whenever I'm able to initiate the fight, that makes it a bit easier for everyone to follow up after that.
Yeah, perfect. You've just reminded me quite nicely of say those split comps, which is something that I wanted to touch on next week with the grouping. Was say your ball sigma comps, things like that. That's going to require someone from the core, so someone from beat the fuck. What did I do there? Oh. Someone from Steve, Noss, and Near, usually, or Steve, Cynthia, and Near sometimes. Someone from that core to call the rotations, a secondary caller on rotations and things.
Right, yeah.
So what do we feel? Do we feel like that should be Sigma's job? Do we feel it should be Zen's job?
I mean, from my perspective, I don't know as an off tank, but from my perspective, like I want to be in the best position possible to enable Zen's damage, and I can't do that if I'm in the wrong position. That might appeal to a Sigma. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I don't know how everyone wants to play it, but if you want the most damage output, then I probably call the rotations to put myself in probably the safest, best position that I can be in, because my job, I know where I need to be. But in terms of like, I don't know how you want to engage with engage with a fight.
Mm.
That's not really my job. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't. I can help with like positioning and like sometimes like that, but the engagement, that's not really.
I feel like if we split it to like a secondary rotation, as in it's like if we have a split core and then it's like double sig comp, like
Yeah.
Mozzie said, then I feel like if I'm calling a separate thing and I'm not really calling a rotation for you guys, then it would be better if you called for your core being the sig.
Yeah,
And
that's sort of what we're looking at here. There
Yeah,
is kind
so
of two,
yeah.
like Harrow's calls on his engages are really only going to affect the tracer. I think I don't know which you will play tracer in this, but it's going to affect the tracer and the echo or whoever else is involved in that. It's not going to really affect how the Zen Sig move all
I
that
mean,
much.
The thing is, though, is if when you with a ball comp, when you slam the enemy team, you're disrupting them, which allows us to move.
Yeah,
So it is obviously very important that we do know when you are slamming and things like that. So
Yeah.
if you say, "Oh, I'm going for a slam," and then I say, "Okay, rotate right side," like you can do it like that, if you know what I mean.
I think that'd
yeah,
work.
that's perfect. I think that's a very good idea there in terms of getting the kind of both people, both cores on the same wavelength.
I might just want to add.
Yep.
We were talking about like a lot about Zen,
Yep.
but especially looking into the future and also looking at the current meta, the core rotation calls should be a skill that needs to be developed and shouldn't be dependent on who you want to get value out of. Because I can think right now out of a couple compositions where flex support's positioning is irrelevant almost. That
Okay.
would be normal double shield and that would be double bubble.
Yeah.
In double bubble, you want to get value out of your Zarya, and if you play double shield without a Zen, so
I think I
you also want to prefer the Sigma damage
The off
output.
tank then.
If you're on Zen, it's for sure like the flex support who wants to get the value if it's Zen. So
I was talking with like the whole
it
comp.
yeah, it can do either like off tank or flex support. But on like depending on the compositions, one's gonna have it tougher than the other one eventually, anyways. So it doesn't matter who you pick, in my opinion, between off tank and flex support. It should be one of those two, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you just have to be ready that you're gonna do it for every core competition then.
That's fair, and I think that's not an awfully big undertaking for flex support. I know coming into double bubble and stuff like that, it can be a little bit more difficult, but I think I'd be happy with you still taking that. What does everyone think?
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I think it'd be. I don't mind. Like, it's flexible.
Like in one of my old team, it was the main support doing the stuff. Like who had no say in anything because he's the brick player and it's just there to protect, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a skill that can easily be developed. So, but it just might be easier on some roles than others.
Okay. So the one last thing I have down for the mid fight is investments. But before we get into that, is there anything else that you guys feel is important to be delegated for the mid fight calls?
I don't think so.
No, I think it's kind of
Yeah, I don't think so.
okay. This can be changed and worked on and improved. And like Guffo was saying, coming into Overwatch 2, this could be almost scrapped and we start again. Like there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but it's good to get one thing kind of to look at and work off of for a little while. So investments, this is like it could be purple. Maybe it should, but the idea being that calling when we've used enough ults, calling when we want to use certain cooldowns, etc., etc. Like obviously, not every cooldown needs this, but things like speed boost might be important. You know, when the Reapers to TP in, these sort of engages, it does kind of fall a little bit into kind of like your rotations engagements. I just put it down as investments because I think you can kind of catch all with that with ults as well. So again, Harrow, I gave it to you. You're kind of the mid fight guy, but I'll leave it to you guys to discuss. What do you think?
I think it makes sense, just because, like, say we're on a brawl comp, for example, just because the resources are quite important on that.
Yep.
Like, if I want to engage and we don't have a speed boost, then if I say something like, "Hey, can we speed on in like a few seconds?" or "Do we have a May wall to play for this fight on the corner?" Like, I feel like if I ask for that, then it's a lot easier because I'm already the one that's I'm like already like trying to get us to like be able to walk on something. So if I'm like asking, "Hey, can we speed on this?" or "Hey, can we play for wall here?" then I feel like that would probably be easier on my role.
Yep. I'm definitely inclined to agree. Fuck. Let's make it bigger. Yeah. So again, like you're saying, you ask, you see, and then you call the engage or the investment then based on the check beforehand. Okay. I think that kind of, I have these two extra ones here. I'll leave them there just in case. That kind of just covers the mid fight and kind of fighting in general. And then I've gone on to talk about more of the post fight stuff. So fight one, again, when to call a fight lost. Now, usually anyone can do this, but it will be important for someone to be primarily thinking about this. Or another way of looking at it is someone to have final say. So let's say for talk's sake, you're in a situation where it's a 2v3, and someone that's just after dying calls fight loss. Having someone to have that final say or the final verdict on whether or not we should be investing or not, it's an important thing. There are overrules and exceptions and fucking everything out the door with these, and there is with all of these. None of these are hard and fast rules. But it'd be good to have one person thinking about this during fights.
I feel like a fight loss call is very dependent on maybe like the ults that we have. If we're down 1 or 2, but we have like a really good potential to win because of the ults that we have, then like, or if we have like, if we're in a position where we can pop off and we have a lot of pop off potential there, then even if it's a losing fight, it doesn't have to be like we just like give up and die just because they're like down one person or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, of course. But who calls?
I feel like
Nos would have the most information about that, because if you're talking about, you know, with like resources and like alts, for example, Nos would know. So, and like 90% of the time as well is like, it's not going to be me, because 90% of the time it's either me or Harrow that fucking dies first. So I don't think it should be either of us.
Yeah. I mean, if not Nos, then I feel like Cynthia being a hit scan, which correct me if I'm wrong, is like being the most like damage output. I feel like that probably has the most pop off potential. Like if you're on Widow or Kree or something, and you just click
also
at.
got to think, even if I'm playing Tracer, I've just watched this whole fight happen. If I'm on Tracer, I'm not the one dying first. If I'm dying first on Tracer, I'm just mad.
Yeah,
like,
and
but I watch a whole fight take place because I'm not thinking very hard playing DPS. I look at the things outlined in red and I press the mouse one button.
You just sit on the card and look through the walls, watching the fight happen.
Yeah. And I'm like, while you guys are thinking about cooldown management and shit, I'm there just shooting things. And it's like,
yeah, I think like there's good arguments. I was before I didn't say it, but for me personally, I always thought it should be the off tank because at least with my play style, like I do prioritize as diva staying the fuck alive, like not getting staggered, that sort of shit. So I was always, but again, off tank might call it a bit early then as well, and anyone might call it a bit early. This is not like a, you know, you're the only person to call it, because sometimes you're not in a position to, exceptions out the fucking wazoo, but having someone that primarily does it or can think about it a lot was a good idea. So Nos, Cynthia, Steve, whatever the fuck, it doesn't bother me at all, but
I
just to
also
nail
don't
someone
want to
down.
overload.
I don't think you have to decide on who does that. I think if someone is fairly certain that the fight is lost, you can call it. And if it wasn't a fight that was lost, then we can talk about it afterwards. So
Yeah, I think
that's not. I think that you would just point on someone like only if Cynthia says the fight is lost, it's lost. But if I don't
absolutely.
know, Oof says it, we don't care. Like.
Yeah, and while I agree with that, and I do, and I think, you know, it would be perfectly acceptable to leave this as purple. I can say, you know, anyone can call it. I do think it's important that someone has a little bit more jurisdiction. Like, for example, if you left rotations purple, anyone could call rotations. Well, Harrow would be the best to call it, would be in the best position to call it. And while there are exceptions to the rule, it would make sense for Harrow to be the one to call it, or have what's the word, priority over a call that was split, for example. You know, that sort of way. Like if Steve sees something and says, no, we need to rotate through mini or whatever the fuck, but Harrow's like, no, we're going main. We have someone now that we can say, okay, that's the call. Again, a similar thing can happen, and yeah, of course we can look back on it and adjust it, and, you know, talk about it and see where we went wrong and things like that. That's perfect, but I do think that having a priority caller on this, like what we have with everything else, it will be my preference. But that being said, and I'm not trying to overrule, If you guys think purple is the way to go on this and just leave it open, that's fine. I'm not gonna to come down hard on any of these at all.
Having that stuff outlined person to person in these early days is probably more helpful, I would say, just because like it leaves us with no gaps of like, well, this is kind of lucid, you know, like what's going on. But having it outlined for now until we all like sort of glue ourselves together a little bit more and play a lot more together.
So we're split there on Cynthia and Nos. What do we think?
I'm different.
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
But then we've also got to think, right? Nos has also got
A
a
lot to
few
do.
other bits to be doing. I don't want to overload his mind. You know?
One.
Hey,
It's a very important one.
It is a big one. I'm inclined to agree with you on that, Cynthia. I think it is something that you could definitely do. I would also, again, I do think off tank is a good shout there, but we'll reassess this maybe when Steve gets back and see if there's any changes, see how it goes for the week or whatever, and go from there. Okay, I am conscious that I'm spending way too much time on this one in particular, but I suppose better to do it right than not. Anyway, post fight then. I have a blank one here again because I don't think I covered everything when I was thinking about this. But a clear comms check is phenomenal. I think it's a really, really good thing to have. It needs to be adhered to. It's so easy for a clear comms to be called and someone to just say something like, on a left and a low. Like, I understand that sometimes it is important that we get those last few people in, but we need to make sure that we're all respecting it so that anytime that it is broken, the clear comms is broken, that it's acted on and it's important. What I'm trying to say here is I like the idea of having clear comms, and I like that it's rigid so that when it does get broken, it's noteworthy, so to speak, and it's not habit that we break clear comms to chase a target. It's very important when it does happen. So that's something I would like to see. I think this is pretty cut and dry. The only one, I mean, yeah, Nos, you're on ult track. I don't think there's any discussion really there. The enemy ult plan is one that I do think is up for discussion. Like I love that the off tank does this. I think is a really good idea because as Diva or as Sigma or as any of these, you're often thinking about these ults anyway. And you're thinking about when are they going to use Blizzard. You're thinking about when are they going to use fucking EMP. So that would be my preference, but obviously Steve's not here. So if we want to implement one again and reassess going forward, or NOS, if this is something you feel like you could do on top of the ult tracking, I'm happy with that too. So NOS, you're kind of on ult here. I'll let you speak first.
I could do it, yeah. No problem. But again, if someone would feel more comfortable doing it, then I wouldn't mind. But yeah, I'm happy to. Like a lot of the time when they do have like 6 ults or something, I end up just calling the ones that they're probably going to use.
Yeah. Any
But yeah, I'm handy.
anyone else? Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty cut and dry, to be honest. I'm happy with that. Look, again, we can reassess when Steve gets back and see if there's any other changes to that. So that's the enemy ult plan. I've split these up. Okay. Proposition, I think, is one that kind of comes up. Guffle, is your mic? There's a.
Yeah.
He's drilling his table.
Nah, it's my washing machine in the background.
Okay.
It will go spinning mode really soon.
Oh, fair. I split these up. I think it might be a little bit better because if someone has an idea, they're probably going to say it, and we don't need the plan check. If nothing comes up, then it's probably a good idea for the plan check. I don't know. Does that make sense, or am I kind of off the goop on that one?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. We're back on the pre-flight plan then. And Harrow, again, it's all up to you to start talking. And I think that kind of does it. Am I missing anything from the post-fight?
Other than like, unless it's the final point of a map, you know, let's take Eichenwald third, and we've just won a fight at the last corner. What do we want to do to stop a contest? Because I know a good number of times we've been held at a contest point with like 3 minutes left on the map, but they knock us straight down to 0. just on this like rapid contesting. How do we want to play a fight like that? Because it's not very similar to a traditional 6 versus 6 team fight. It's like you're fighting one at a time out of a different door. Things, stuff like that. So then it gets quite messy.
Anyone have any thoughts?
It's kind of a never-ending fight, no? So it's all a mid-fight, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think you do have a couple of seconds or a little while there really close to the post fight. So I guess, Cynthia, almost what you'd be looking for there is you're looking for someone to almost call the skip on this and focus, bring us straight back into the mid fight in a sense. Okay, that's interesting. I wish I could go into it a little bit more, but I don't think I have the time. I'm going to leave it blank. We'll just call it. We'll just call it contest for the minute, or contest fight or something like that. It's one that probably warrants a little bit of. Jesus, that's going to get messy. Okay, we'll just leave it up here. Warrants a little bit more discussion. I think maybe we reevaluate next week or something like that. I'm going to leave this.
Both ways.
Yeah, I'm going to leave this for now. Just because I do want to cover the ethos a little bit. Or fuck, I don't really have time. Maybe we'll just go into reflection. Fuck it, we'll do a little bit. So I'm going to post this up in coaching. If you have a second monitor and you're comfortable just throwing this up, I really think it's a good idea just to keep you guys on the straight and narrow in terms of keeping comms clear, who's doing what, stuff like that. And it's relatively easy to follow, all things considered. Okay, so I just pulled the definition of ethos here off of Google. It means customer character, blah 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 blah. Here we go. Ethos is used to refer to the practices or values, specifying values, that distinguish an organization. Okay, so things that we hold in high regard within the team, things we want to see from each other, from yourselves, from anyone that's involved with the team in any way. I have a big one, and that's transparency. Being fully open. If something is going wrong, we talk about it. We don't let shit bottle up. We don't let it fester. We don't dig it down. We don't do it in DMs. Like, there's a reason that we're on a team. We have a team only channel in this server and in Arena 51, so that we can talk about issues. Okay. So I think transparency is a big one. I think it should be implemented in every team. But it's one I would if I was to have any say in the ethos, it would be transparency. I pulled these ones off the internet as well. I mean, some of these are fucking shite. Like, who gives a fuck about professionalism? I don't know. But anyway, passion, enjoyment. This is all really good shit. Respect is massive. It kind of falls into transparency as well, that you're not talking behind someone's back about an issue, things like that. Humility is another big one. I think being able to say, if someone tells you you fucked up, they're not telling you to piss you off or sow discourse. They're telling you because you fucked up. Okay. Having humility in that sense is really, geez, I'm just seeing this one variation, like ruthless, hardcore, etc. Christ. Having humility is a fantastic one in that regard. Integrity again is not as it might be something you guys want. So the key thing about this is, and again I have it nice and big, the critical step is putting actions, standards, and behaviors behind the words. So whatever you guys decide to put into the ethos, it needs to mean something. It needs to be followed up on. We all need to agree on it. This is something that is going to be, it's almost like a little bit of a Bible here that you guys are going to follow, in terms of how you play together, how you play in the server, how you act out of the server. It's all standards to live by. I'm going to post this up in the probably in the philosophy channel, because it is somewhat a little bit similar to that. And just to go back to this, my two quotes for this kind of this section, we'll call it, a lack of transparency results in distrust and deep sense of insecurity. Bad old Dalai Lama said that one. And a really good one from Aristotle, which I think is, I mean, it's absolutely just crucial here. the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So no one here is trying to be better than anyone else, and we will get our best work done as a team. So 2 things to consider. We won't do any writing on that now. I'd hoped to maybe spend about 10 minutes doing it, but I think I want to just cover reflections and get some questions and stuff. But yeah, I'll post it up. You guys can maybe think of some stuff, and we might circle back, or even just write it into philosophy, and we can talk about it in there. We don't need to be in a chat for it. But that's something that we're going to be looking at. Okay. Finally, then, the last one I have here is reflection. So has anyone done kind of reflective practice before on anything?
Yeah.
How did you find it?
Yeah.
Shite?
Painful.
Painful?
Yeah.
Awful?
I
Yeah.
liked it.
You liked it?
I don't
Well, that's
know.
great.
I mean, I did a very similar thing with an old team I played for, and it was like we had a whole bit after every scrim about team and self-reflection, and it's like not entirely about the game. What can you do better as a person to do, sort of follow the ethos more, and stuff like that. It's like, where do you feel your own shortcomings are, and then how do those shortcomings affect everyone else around you?
Brilliant.
And
Yeah, like I mean, it's I think, fuck it, like we had to do it as part of our teacher training, and fuck me, I hated it. I fucking despised it. For months and months, I did this every day. It was awful, and then sometime in like February, it just fucking clicked, and I realized this is why I'm actually getting better. Like this is why it's not the hours I'm putting in. It's nothing. It's actually just sitting down and thinking, where have I fucking gone wrong here? Where can I do better? Again, thinking back to your ethos now, I didn't have something like that myself to work off of, so I can't speak to it. But it was just fantastic. So, again, Cynthia, since you like it and you've done it before, I'll probably get you to lead the charge in terms of the collective reflections in the reflections channel, and if you feel comfortable, your self reflections. But of course, that's entirely up to you.
yeah,
If you guys haven't done it before, I'd recommend DMing it to me. I'm happy to see it. If you don't want me to respond to it, that's fine too. Just let me know. And if you have done it and you hate it, well, fucking tough luck. Get it into you. Get it done. It's shit crack for the first while, but honestly, guys, this is how you get better. It really is. It's so good. And again, I can't stress this enough. You may never get this right. You may write reflections every scrim. You do fucking essays for all I care, and you might never get it right. One day it might click. So that's sort of all I really wanted to do. It's all very, very fundamental, basic, and very little to do with Overwatch, so to speak. But I'm just kind of setting the stage for the sort of work I hope to be doing with you guys over the next, 5 weeks for now, and then moving forward, we'll see how it goes. So we have 7 minutes till you guys are in the server. Anyone have any questions?
No.
Like a real
No.
classroom, no.
Yeah.
All good. Everyone's happy, understands. We all know what we're doing.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna end the recording. I'll post this up and probably